Welcome to the Board Game Network. I'm going to be explaining how to play this game called Sheriff of Nottingham. This was an Origins Award winner for 2015. It plays 3 to 5 players, and there are some alterations for 3 players, so you just have to check in the setup for that. You are a merchant, you're delivering goods to the market, and you're trying to convince the sheriff to let you buy. And so that may happen by bluff, bribery, or smuggling. The wealthiest merchant wins at the end of the game. You want to bring your goods to market. So I've got this set up for 4 players. We got a purple, green, red, and blue. And then there's a yellow 5th player. You're going to start with 50 coins. You're going to start with 6 cards after this has gotten shuffled. That's a challenge, shuffling that deck. You are going to start with 2 discards of 5 cards flipped up. So there's 2 discard piles. And whoever has the most cash on him becomes the sheriff at the beginning of the game. So once that happens, here are the card quantities that are in this deck here. It shows for 3 players, it shows for 4 or 5 players. You'll notice on your card here you got apples, bread, cheese, and chicken. And apples are the most prolific in the deck. The cheese and bread are equal, and then the chicken is the least. That shows the gold value for each card. It shows the penalty for each card. It shows you the contraband cards. The legal goods are green. The contraband ones are red. It shows you how many there are of each. It shows you the value of each and the penalty of each. And then there's royal goods, and that's what this one is. It's got a gold banner at the bottom. They're all red cards. They're considered goods just for the king, so if you have them, you're not supposed to have them. Okay, so the turn order is referenced right here on your very own card. And so step 1 is starting to the left of the sheriff is the first player. He sets aside 0 to 5 cards from his hand. So he's going to look at his hand, decide what he wants to take to market. And so he's going to go through that and go, well, you know what, I really would like, I got some bunch of bread here. I got 3 bread. So I'm going to set aside my other ones that I don't have that aren't bread. And he's going to set those aside face down, and then he can draw back up to 6. So he's got 3 here. He gets to draw 3 more. And so you can either draw this from either discard pile or both discard piles, or from the draw deck. Now when you're drawing from the discard pile, you have to start at the top and work your way down. Now you can look at the discard, see what's in there, but bread is nowhere to be found in that one. And bread is the 3rd one down on this one, the 3rd and the 4th one. So he would have to draw mead and chicken just to get down to the bread. So he's probably better off just drawing cards off the top. And he did not get any more bread. And then he decides what to do with these, and those have to all go on the same discard pile. He can put them in whatever order he wants, and he discards. So that's step 1. Mark it, and then that goes to the next player, the next player, the next, and everybody takes a turn except for the sheriff does not do this. And each person then loads their bag. So blue might say, well, I'm going to put my 3 bread in here. And he snaps the bag. Once he's snapped the bag, he's done with his loading the merchant bag. Step 2, once you've snapped it, you're done. And then, you know, red takes his turn, and well, he may not have much of anything. So he may just go, you know what, I'm going to see if I can make this past the sheriff. Load all these contraband cards in here with maybe with an apple. So I'm going to, an apple is the most prolific, so that sounds reasonable to have 4 apples. So he's going to put 1 apple and 3 red cards in there. And green's going to do the same thing. He could have a mix of legal goods. He could have legal goods with contraband. He could have contraband only, whatever. And then step 3 is declaration. You hand your bag to the sheriff. You look him in the eye and say, I've got 3 bread. And you give them to the sheriff. And red says, I have 4 apples. And you hand it to the sheriff. And green says, I have whatever. Hand it to the sheriff. Once everybody's done handing it to the sheriff, then he has to say a legal commodity. So that would be apples, bread, cheese, or chicken. He has to say one of those 3. He has to say a number of cards, and that number of cards needs to be accurate. Because for one thing, you have whatever you have left should add up to 6. So it wouldn't work too good if you gave him a wrong number. So however many cards you put in the bag, you tell him that many, and then you say apples, bread, cheese, or chicken. And what you're saying is all of them are that. So if you say 3 chickens, then all 3 of them, you're telling the sheriff, all 3 of them are chickens. Then the inspection. Step 4 is inspection. The sheriff at this point looks through decides. He's checking out the bags, he's thinking about it, looking at the people, you know, maybe he's asking for a bribe, maybe he's threatening, like, you know what, I think I might check this bag. And so he can do this in any order he wants. He doesn't have to go left to right or anything. He can say, you know what, if you give me some apples, I'm not going to check your bag. Now the apples have to come from the market. So it has to be something that somebody already has out in play. So it doesn't work too good for the first round here. Has to be something out here, or he could give him some contraband. He could give him some coins. He could say, well, you know what, for 5 coins I won't check your bag. Or he could just decide he was going to let him, you look honest, I'm going to let you through. And so once he's handed the bags back, then that's a commitment that he's not checking the bag. Once he unsnaps the bag, he's committed to inspecting. And so once he opens up that bag and he says, well, this is supposed to be 4 apples, and look at that, we got 3 contraband in here. What happens is all the things that you legally declared, so if you said apples, and there's apples in here, those go into your market. Even though you weren't honest about everything, whatever you were honest about goes out. And then the contraband, all of these cards have a value up in the upper right hand corner. That's what it's worth at the end of the game. And in the lower right hand corner is a penalty. Now that penalty gets paid by whoever was wrong. So in this case, the red player said that these were apples. They are not. So he owes 4 for this one, 4 for this one, 4 for this one. He actually pays the sheriff 12 coins for the 3 cards, and then the sheriff discards them. So he doesn't even get them. So the sheriff gets richer. The contraband goes in the discard pile. Now if he decided he was going to check the blue cards and the blue player said that there was 3 bread, he checked, he inspected, and there was 3 bread, then now the sheriff owes the blue player whatever the penalty is for all of the cards. So 2, 4, 6, the sheriff would have to pay the blue player 6, and the blue player gets to keep his bread and puts him down by the bread. And then that's the end of the round. Everybody draws back up to 6 cards in their hand. The sheriff gets passed to the left, and now we have a new sheriff. The game goes like this until everybody has been sheriff twice. You can, when you're bribing, you can offer items out of your bag, but they may or may not be legal. Whereas anything, may or may not be correct. So you can say, I'll give you all the apples in my bag, and there may not be any apples in your bag. Or you may say, I'll give you 2 apples in the bag, and there may not be, or there may be, whatever. So that is not binding. Anything else out here is binding. Any future favors are non-binding. So let's say in the next round I'll do something, and that's a non-binding agreement. You can break it or not. In a 3-player game, the game ends after everybody's been sheriff 3 times. So at the game end, you score all of your goods. So all the goods that are out here in the market out here, even the contraband, you're going to flip up. And when you play, when the sheriff lets you buy, you put these out face up. So people have access to know how many apples you had, how many cheese you have. The contraband goes out face down. So they do not get to see what you have in your contraband. But the sheriff does notice that you didn't have what you said you had. Of course, he probably knows you didn't have what you said you had if you offer him a bribe to not look. Probably. So you're going to add up all the value of all the cards you have. You're going to add up the gold to that. And then you're going to add up what's called the Kings and Queens bonus. And that's listed here on your card. And that's for who has the most of that item and the second most. So apples is 20 and 10. Bread is 15 and 10. Cheese is 15 and 10. Chicken is 10 and 5. So apples are the least valuable item. There's more of them in the deck. Chickens are the most valuable. There's the fewest of them. But the chicken bonus is smaller. The apple bonus is higher. So there's kind of a trade-off in there. And then you add all of that up. You add the royal goods. Let me find that royal goods card again. Where'd that thing go? Royal goods, what they do is they have a value on them also. But it says counts as 2 of something or counts as 3 of something. Counts as 2 apples or 3 apples or something of that nature. And that affects the bonus. That's what that does. Here is the counts as 3 cheese. It's blue cheese. So that's going to be over there. You're going to flip that up. And so when somebody was planning on getting the king's bonus and you flip this one up, that adds 3 to the number of cheese you have. So it can make you so you end up getting the bonus instead of somebody else when they were planning on it. Now that's how you play Sheriff of Nottingham. It's kind of a game of bluff. And you definitely, when you bluff the sheriff too much, he starts inspecting you more often. So that's the game of Sheriff of Nottingham here at the Board Game Network. Make sure you tune into all of our videos and especially subscribe to this channel.